crowd. It's good to see you. We'll get right to the business. The first item is the Pledge of Allegiance. So I'll invite Malachi Rolak to come up and lead us in the pledge. Right there. That's good. Go ahead. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Malachi. Okay, first item then is the approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. Each month, we recognize a student and teacher from one of our public schools here in Zebulon, and this month is Wakeland Elementary School, and so this is always a fun part of the evening to recognize these students. The first was just introduced and led us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Malachi, come up here and stand with me. You might want to stand out here so they can see you, though. This thing can hide you. There you go. Malachi Rolak is only a first grader at Wakeland. However, if you ask any adult or student in the school, they will tell you they know him. He's a shining light at Wakeland. His polite and respectful demeanor has captured the hearts of us all. He excels academically and is also a seasoned entertainer. He was the main attraction at the talent show last year when he took on Bruno Mars. Wakeland is very proud of Malachi. Okay, thank you, Malachi. And the teacher this month is Tawanda Combs. Ms. Combs is the model of what an outstanding teacher strives to be. Ms. Combs, and where is she? Come on up here, I'm sorry. I got to think about Malachi. All right, Ms. Combs drops whatever she is doing when another teacher is in need of help. She is often still at school working hours after the day has ended. Ms. Combs has served primarily K-2 students, but also helps any student who may need help with math, reading, or social emotional issues. Everything she does is done with a standard of excellence. Ms. Combs has also served many roles at Wakeland. She has been the school improvement chair, co-facilitator of the MTSS team, leadership team member, and as of this school year, she has been promoted to literacy coach and instructional facilitator, teacher, and anything else that she is asked to do. Ms. Combs is an outstanding choice for this recognition and an invaluable asset to Wakeland Elementary School. Thank you. Next, we have the public comment period, and each month at this meeting, we offer anyone that wants to speak for 3 minutes with no more than a total of 15 minutes for everyone to come forward and speak. And this year, we've had one person sign up, Mary Beth Carpenter. So if you would come forward, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and greetings, Commissioners. I'm Mary Beth Carpenter. I'm Executive Director of Preservation Zebulon, and I'm just here to announce that we have murder coming to Zebulon on September 28th. Our annual fundraiser a murder mystery dinner fundraiser will be held at 6 o'clock on September 28th. The theme this year is Death by Disco. Somewhere between the appetizers and the entrees, someone will get killed, and the rest of the evening, the audience figures out who did it. All proceeds this year will go to our preservation, promotion, and historical documentation projects, and we hope some of you can find time to attend. We're also looking forward to working with you and with Wakeland to hold our annual memory project and Scanathon project that we had requested funds for back in February, and which you kindly granted us. And this year, we thank you for the funds. We look forward to partnering with you with that. We do have a subcommittee set up to explore when to have that. We're looking at perhaps February or early March of 2020 for that. And our subcommittee is trying to secure the date and get everything set. We'll have more details on that later. I thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we have two more recognitions, and I'm going to go back to the podium for these. Greg Johnson? We did let you back in. Yeah. All right. Good. Good to see you.
Good to see you, sir.
We wanted to recognize Greg, who is a longtime head of our recreation department, now retired, wasting his time doing something, I don't know what. But anyway, we did want to recognize him. And he, let me just read this so I get it all right, because he has been inducted into the Tar Heel League's Hall of Fame. Excuse me. Many will recognize Greg Johnson as longtime Parks and Recreation Director. Greg served 30 years for the town, providing recreational experiences to the children of Zebulon and our greater community. We want to take this opportunity to recognize Greg's efforts that contributed to his induction into the Tar Heel League Hall of Fame at the annual state conference in July. Greg was instrumental in bringing Tar Heel Leagues Incorporated into Eastern Wake County. He has always been a cheerleader and supporter of the league. Greg served several years as a District 6 director for Tar Heel Leagues, and in addition to serving on the State Board of Directors. The town of Zebulon hosted many tournaments as the district and state levels under the leadership and guidance of Greg. Greg also managed to find time to coach at the recreational and all-star level for many years. Greg coached his players to win 2 state championships, the 2002 10 and under state championship played in Lee County, and the 2006 under 14 state championship played in Williamston. We are grateful for Greg's service to the town of Zebulon and for his support of the Tar Heel League, which opened the door to quality level competitive experience for Zebulon youth. So congratulations on your induction.
Thank you very much. I will. Hey, Joe. It's good to see you guys. It was very surprising that Tar Heel did honor me with putting me in their Hall of Fame, and it was an enjoyable day when that occurred, and I appreciate you guys recognizing it also. It's very important to me, and my whole family's here is important to them. So. And I'll just say something about youth sport. Town of Zebulon has been providing youth sports for kids for many years, at least since the late 1960s. And it's continued to go on. You've got some of the best facilities, some of the best programs, and keep that work up. And that's for Town of Zebulon and Tar Heel Leagues. We've got a 25-year partnership going, and I hope that continues on. It's a wonderful organization. So go out and support all your players, whether it be baseball, soccer, basketball, whatever sport it is. Thank you, guys. Thank you a lot.
Okay, we also have an all-star baseball team with us. Would y'all care to come up? However you can fit in. You might want to stand over here where people can see you. This is 11, 12-year-old all-star baseball, and Jason Brown on the end here has been a baseball coach for over 8 seasons with the Zebulon Parks and Recreation. In that time, he has amassed a number of awards, including regular season championships, invitational championships, and now a district championship. This year's 11, 12-year-old all-star baseball team consisted, and I'm going to call your name if you just throw your hand up, Dexter Benton, Jackson Brown, Reagan Brown, Blake Collins, Carson Creech. Carson's not here? Okay. Patty Kennedy, Roy Morgan, Dylan Palmer, Owen Schmidt, okay, Christopher Tankersley, Blake Wainwright, and C.J. Whitaker. Not here either. Okay. Brown was supported by assistant coaches Anthony Creech, I don't see Anthony here, Sonia Tankersley, and Frank Wainwright. During the district tournament, the Zebulon All-Stars scored 39 runs and only allowed 13, beating Knightdale 15-5 and Garner twice, 12-6 and 12-2. In the championship game, they went to represent District 6 at the town of Zebulon in the state tournament, where they finished 4th. So, well done. Thanks, fellas. Next, we have a proclamation for Firefighters Week, September the 8th through the 14th of 2019, and I'd like to read this proclamation to you. Excuse me. Whereas fighting fires is one of the most hazardous professions, requiring physical strength, stamina, extensive training, courage, and selfless concern for the welfare of others. Whereas firefighters provide valuable services to the citizens of Zebulon and surrounding areas. And whereas firefighters make sacrifices to protect the lives and financial interests of the citizens of Zebulon. And whereas firefighters respond to emergencies without hesitation when the call of duty arises. And whereas firefighters have a great appreciation for protecting their communities. And whereas our firefighters are a combination of both paid and volunteer professionals who are dedicated to the service of this community. And whereas the North Carolina General Assembly resolved that the week containing September the 11th is Firefighters Week in North Carolina each year, now therefore we, the Board of Commissioners of the town of Zebulon, do hereby proclaim September 8th through September the 14th, 2019 as Firefighters Week and call upon all citizens to recognize the duty and services of the firefighters perform. And I'll call for a motion to adopt it this 9th day of September.
So moved. Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor? And firefighters in the room? Do we have any here? Chris? Well, you can stand up. You represent them. So thank you. All right, next we have a presentation from the Chamber of Commerce by Denise Nowell.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the board. As our partnership has grown, this evening marks the first quarterly update on the Business Retention and Expansion Program. Last year, the town adopted a strategic plan that focused on smart growth, creating a vibrant downtown, and preserving and enhancing Zebulon's small town life. The Chamber's strategic plan is focused on helping businesses engage, strengthening our business infrastructure, and nourishing and sustaining a healthy ecosystem. The recently adopted Business Retention and Expansion Program partnership is a result of a year-long process where we gathered feedback from the Zebulon business community. The program allows priorities and goals from both strategic plans to intersect so that Zebulon is prepared for the future that's right in front of us. Key drivers for the Business Retention and Expansion Program include business visitation, hosting Zebulon Next, being a small business resource, and strengthening participation with economic development partners. So a little bit about each of those four. Business visitation looks like regular visits as well as online surveys to create a database to draw from and metrics for serving our businesses. We can then use this information to make connections with the town staff as needed, local resources, and regional partners. Zebulon Next has two formats that rotate every year. Last year, we hosted the second Zebulon Next Economic Growth Conference. This year, we will host our second Zebulon Next for Workforce Development Conference. Being a small business resource, means connecting small, emerging, and budding entrepreneurs with the tools they need. It also means hosting events that give them opportunities to meet one another and rub shoulders with other business owners. Strengthening participation with economic development partners means our partners know us and we know them. It also means being open to working with new partners and bringing them into the conversation as needed. So you have partnered with the Chamber to implement this Business Retention and Expansion Program and to be your economic development liaison. This works because the Chamber is connected to both public and private sectors, and we can actively and quickly respond in this space. The town also utilizes resources most effectively through this partnership. We're thankful to have the opportunity to represent you, and we're proud to be working alongside of you as we fight for the highest possible good for our community. So how are we delivering value on efforts related to the BRE? We are strengthening relationships with new and current staff. What that looks like is we meet regularly, we connect and we communicate often, we work together on projects that you are looking for us to bring to you. We worked with Teresa during her role as interim planning director. We continue working with her in her current role. We're working with Michael and Meade and the rest of the planning department as we walk through changes. We're also working with Sheila and continuing to be connected with all of the town's staff departments. So a few examples of that. Meetings with Sheila led me to introduce her to Annette Dunlap. That connection resulted in the Farm Fresh Market Fresh Point survey and focus groups, which have provided valuable feedback for the market. Recently, Michael and I attended a first-of-its-kind hotel summit with fellow Wake County municipalities for a panel discussion about what communities like Zebulon can do to attract a potential developer. And as a side note, while we might not have been on the map on all of that presentation during parts of that, we were definitely present, and being there assured them that Zebulon is in the game. Because of being there, we are now connected with some potential investors, and we also have an invitation to attend the next conversation centered around hotels. The Chamber also coordinated having Lauren Gold with the Greater Raleigh Convention and Visitors Bureau at your February board retreat. Connections after Lauren's presentation that day led to a meeting with Sheila, Mike, and our staff to talk about visitor engagement for Zebulon. A few weeks ago, the Chamber, Planning, Parks and Rec, and the mayor attended the GRCVB annual meeting, so that's the picture that you see. Discussions centered around why tourism matters for Wake County. Zebulon actually received a shout out during the strategy session, recognizing our community as one of the early adopters for a program that's getting ready to be launched in partnership with NC State and each of our 12 municipalities in Wake County. That recognition was a direct result of us being in the meeting that Sheila coordinated a few weeks before. We've also had the opportunity to work closely with the Zebulon Fire Department. Earlier this summer, the Mudcat Stadium hosted the Pierce's Road Rally, the largest one that they've hosted in a community of our size. Weeks later, our fire trucks were delivered, and we held an in-service ribbon-cutting ceremony. And then at the Southeast Atlantic Fire Rescue event expo 3 weeks ago, we continued conversations with the designer of our fire trucks, as they have enjoyed working with us and have had other communities ask about our fire trucks. So all of these things matter because when we engage in deeper conversations with current and future partners, we can go as a team. We each bring our strong suit, and knowing how our strengths complement one another is a sort of, I feel like, having a secret sauce for why we are doing good work for Zebulon. An even more tangible way that we are delivering value through this partnership is in the use of the GlaxoSmithKline property. GSK has been and continues to be a committed partner for Zebulon. Conversations with the chamber led to GSK agreeing to let the town use some of their fields. Site Director Troy Webb wanted to see unused property used for the good of the community. May Day, which was an event created by the chamber, opened the door. Use of fields that the town had not had access to for many years is a form of economic development, and those fields are now being used for special occasions, overflow parking, and regular youth sporting events that are so important to our community. 2 years ago, when Mike Mirazak shared with the chamber that he was planning to open in Zebulon, someone from our staff drove to Wake Forest to pick up a couple of pizzas and share them at our chamber board of directors meeting so they could taste for themselves what many of you have been experiencing over the last few weeks. Not only has this brought to us a new place for dining, it's also given us another opportunity to walk through the process of seeing a business come from concept to reality for our downtown. A few of you have asked about a ribbon cutting for a Pizza Amore, and we're excited about this as well. Currently, Mike has said he's not quite ready, so we'll work on that and let you know. In terms of business and industry that make up a large portion of our tax base, relationships with economic development partners are invaluable. Every day, businesses are weighing options for opening, expanding, or reducing their current footprint in Zebulon or moving out of the area. Businesses considering a change, expansion, or relocation need a conduit for asking questions in a place that is neutral. Being in relationship with local and regional partners like Wake County Economic Development, the North Carolina Economic Development Association, and the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina means that when they get a call from one of our local businesses, they have a direct connection to us. They may even know the businesses because they've attended one of our economic growth or workforce development conferences. This is why we've started having regular meetings with these partners. And this is why we bring them to events like Zebulon Next for workforce development and our Zebulon Next economic growth conferences. We need to know them, and they really need to know who we are. Your partnership with the chamber means someone is actively telling Zebulon's story. When we tell our story well, we attract the growth that we want. This is what we're all working toward. Stay tuned for your second quarterly report, which will be in about 3 months, which will include updates on things like BDD Brewing, the Old Raleigh Distillery, and the ZDAC mural, which is going up as we speak. So let me conclude with a quote that may be familiar to you by now, but that continues to be a part of our vision. If you build a place where people want to visit, you build a place where people want to live. If you build a place where people want to live, you build a place where people want to work. If you build a place where people want to work, you build a place where business needs to be. And if you build a place where business has to be, you'll build a place where people have to visit. Thank you. We'll hope to see all of you at the Meet the Candidates event for Business After Hours on Thursday. The public is invited. That will be from 5:30 to 7 at the Zebulon Chamber of Commerce. Any questions?
I don't think so. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
All right. Next, we have the consent agenda.
I make a motion we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor? And the motion carries. Thank you.
That's the
Okay. Next, we have old business, and we have planning, Mead. Ordinance 2020-25.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. The first annexation we'll run parallel with the rezoning case, so it's the same property. I'm just going to do one presentation, but the annexation and the zoning map amendments will need two separate actions, and we'll vote on those separately. But just to refamiliarize you with the parcel, it's located, it's two parcels, 1309 and 1333 Pierce Road, about 111 acres, currently vacant. The parcel is in Wake County's jurisdiction, and the zoning in Wake County is residential 30. The annexation request is to bring the parcel into the town of Zebulon, and in doing so, the applicant is asking for a zoning district of residential 13. This is the parcel, the 111 acres outlined in red. You have Pierce's Road running north to south, and this is just located north of the intersection with Pierce's and Pippin Road. You have the Hunter's Green neighborhood to the adjacent south, Weaver's Pond to the adjacent west, vacant property to the adjacent north. This is the zoning data. Everything that's an aerial is Wake County's jurisdiction. The orange zoning is the Weaver's Pond, which is residential 13 special use district. And then along south on Pippin Road, you have town zoning, which is residential 20. This is the future land use map. Currently, the designation is Zebulon Long Range Utility Service Area. And when the comprehensive plan amendment would amend this designation to medium density if the zoning map amendment is approved by you tonight. As for the annexation, it went to the planning board on August 26th. They recommend approval. It was unanimous, and the consistency statement is below. They felt that it was consistent with the comprehensive plan, the Zebulon Code of Ordinances, and all other applicable plans. These are sample motions, whether you like to approve or deny. At this time, that concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
The only question I have, Mead, is the identification numbers, because I have 2020-25 ordinance, and then I have RZ 2019-08. That didn't seem to match your number.
The case numbers?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if it's adopted, which number do we actually use?
I would use the AN 2019-2 and the RZ 2019-8.
Mayor Matheny, you'll have to adopt the ordinance because you're extending the corporate limit. So it's 2020-25 as one motion. And then the rezoning would be a second motion.
Well, I knew it would be two different motions, and I get that, but the annexation appears to be 2019-02, not 2020-25.
That's the
Which it
case
is.
number, that the annexation number is the case number. The AN number
Okay?
is the case number they assign. When you go to adopt it, you have to adopt an extension of the corporate limits by ordinance, and the next ordinance number is 2020-25.
Okay, so if this board decides to move on that, they have to adopt 2020-25
Yes, sir.
and not the case number.
Correct.
That's all I wanted to clear, because what I was seeing here didn't match what I was seeing here.
Correct.
I just want to be sure that we're going with the right numbers.
Yes, sir.
So thank you. Okay, questions for me?
Mead, who does the cost benefit analysis? Who does that?
It's planning staff.
Who?
Planning staff?
Just tell me why this benefits the town. I want to know why annexing benefits us. But I see a lot of red on here.
That's right. So the red is everything that from an annual basis, what it costs the town. But over time, that red turns into, it would become black and be a positive.
So annexing is costing us annually, right? Am I right?
It costs the town for services, correct?
Yeah. I guess my main concern about annexing is the services we provide. I've thought about it a lot, and I've read a lot, and I've looked at a lot, and I consider the town right now a strong town. I really do. I think we're strong on everything we do. But if we keep on annexing, we're going to weaken our services. We're going to weaken us. And I don't think we're prepared with our services to grow. Traffic, fire, police, public works. I just hate to keep seeing us doing this and us not being prepared. I'm not going to vote for annexation anymore. That's just my opinion. And I want you to tell me why I should, or anybody on the board, why we should keep stretching our town limits and not have the services we need to for the safety. We have police department. There's 3 on shift at one time. How can they take care of this town with 3 policemen?
Well, I can let the police department speak on that.
I know you're the planning man, but I'm just, I'm just worried about how we're going, and it just seems like everything comes before us. Come on in. We're not ready for it. I just don't think we're ready for it. So I'm just going to not vote in favor of annexing this property. Let the county hold it. R30, good. That's all I got to say.
Okay, thank you, Curtis. Anyone else have any remarks or questions? Okay, what's your pleasure?
Are we, the ordinance is 2020-25, is that what?
2020-25, yes.
Okay, I make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2025 as recommended. I guess that we need this for other statement here.
Right.
Yeah. The 2019-02 kind of confuses me a little bit.
Yeah.
Is that what I needed? The 2019?
I just recommend, use the 2020.
2025, recommend approval of 2025 on the consistency with town's comprehensive plan, code of ordinances, and any other official plans that are applicable.
I'll second that.
Motion made and second. Any other comments or discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? And it passes 4-1. Thank y'all. All right, SU, well, we need to do RZ
So that's
2019.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's just annexation.
Okay.
So now that you voted to annex the property, we need to assign a zoning district to it, and that zoning district is residential 13. Just to recap of what the planning board did, they recommended approval, it's unanimous, and they felt it was consistent with the comprehensive plan, the code of ordinances, and any other official plans. And then this would be your sample motion, and I'll look to Ms. Markland. Can they adopt it using the RZ 2019-8?
Yes, they can.
Okay. So when you do make your motion, reference RZ 2019-8.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Is there a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we approve RZ 2019-08 and take the planning board's recommendation. And it does meet all our comprehensive plans, Zebulon Code of Ordinances, comprehensive plans, Zebulon Code of Ordinances, and any other official plan that is applicable.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. Other comments or discussion? All in favor? Opposed? And passes 4-1. Thank y'all. All right, SUP 2019-06, Sydney Creek.
All right, this is the quasi-judicial case heard at the joint public hearing. The applicant was Stocks Engineering. The location is 1701 Chambly Road, 214 acres. The existing zoning is residential 10. This was previously recently rezoned. And the reason for the special use permit is it's a major subdivision. Just give you a reminder of where this was. It's outlined in yellow. You have North Carolina Highway 39 running north to south. Chambly Road runs along this area. You have Mudcat Stadium to the north, US 264 to the north. Johnston County is located to the southeast. The applicant's seeking approval of a special use permit for 822 lot major subdivision. Planning board required the development to meet all the outstanding items in the proposed condition of approvals. These outstanding issues that staff had were exterior elevations, greenway construction on NC Highway 39, greenway amenities, sidewalk requirements, and then traffic signal financial responsibility along NC Highway 39 and US Highway 264. Planning board recommended approval based on the proposed conditions of approval, and that the development met all the findings of fact, and the vote was unanimous. These are the findings of fact. When you do make your determination on whether you approve or deny the special use permit, you will tie it back to whether it meets these four findings of fact. And these are sample motions approving or denying the special use permit.
Meade, I just want to be clear on, I know we had some discussion about some sidewalks. And the developer did not want to put them in the small cul-de-sacs, but did in the large and along the main roads. Tell me exactly what this is doing here, just so we understand.
Well, it wasn't just the small cul-de-sacs. It was, they were providing sidewalks on both sides of the road on the major roadways within the subdivisions, but on some of the other roadways that weren't cul-de-sacs, they were only providing them on one side of the road, and staff wanted to see it on both sides of the road. Staff is of the opinion that on the smaller cul-de-sacs, not providing sidewalks on both sides, but on the major streets within the subdivision, we would require them on both sides.
Okay, but so now in the small cul-de-sacs, they only have to put them on one side, is that right?
That's correct.
But on all other streets, it's on both sides?
Yes.
Okay. And, you know, that's fine with me. It seems funny that you come into a cul-de-sac and just stop a sidewalk right in the middle of it. It seems unusual to me, but.
So would you want to see them on both sides?
Well, either that or if it's an extremely short cul-de-sac where they can get on the main streets, you know, and have sidewalks then on both sides. I think across the street from Dale and Don, there's no sidewalk there. Of course, y'all don't have sidewalks in there anyway. But I don't know, it just seems a little strange that you put a sidewalk down and come around to one side of a cul-de-sac and stop. So I would say either none, depending upon the depth of the cul-de-sac, or bring it all the way around. And I don't know how this board feels, so that just, it seems odd to me.
What's a small cul-de-sac plus just a regular cul-de-sac? Where do you differentiate the difference there?
Let me pull the concept plan up. All right, so where staff was okay with not seeing cul-de-sacs or sidewalks on both sides would be This cul-de-sac, we're looking at, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, less than 10 lots. This cul-de-sac, less than 10 lots. And then this cul-de-sac, less than 10 lots. Every other street, we're requiring sidewalks on both sides. So this cul-de-sac, we'd want to see sidewalks on both sides. Same with this cul-de-sac and this cul-de-sac.
Yeah, I can see that personally on the long dead-end cul-de-sacs, but the small ones, it just seems, I don't know, strange. But again, we'll see what these folks think. I'm not really pushing it one way or the other. I just question it, the thinking behind it.
Well, the staff feels that even if you do live in a cul-de-sac with less than 10 lots, a sidewalk on that street within the cul-de-sac provides a way for you to get to the other main streets, for you to get around the development.
Well, what will probably happen if people's got to go to the sidewalk, will walk on the sidewalk, and the ones that don't walk in the street until they get to a sidewalk.
Well, it just seems strange to me to have a cul-de-sac and then it stops right in the middle of the cul-de-sac. Maybe it's fine. I haven't noticed anywhere else, and I look when I drive, but, you know, other towns and whatnot. That doesn't mean they don't exist. I just haven't. Okay, folks. Any questions from y'all?
Me, get back to the stoplight. Explain the stoplight thing to me. Where is it located? On Old 264 or up at the 4-lane?
Yes, sir. All right, so in the traffic impact analysis, there were 3 areas where there was proposed stoplights. One at North NC 39 and old US Highway 264.
Yeah.
And then I believe there's one at the ramp, and then another one at the other ramp. So the 2 ramp locations, the traffic impact analysis and staff are recommending that 50% of the burden would be on the developer. But at the old 264 and NC 39, staff is of the opinion that should be 100% on the developer.
Okay, I couldn't, you know, it's a perfect situation for subdivision. I mean, easy out, easy to Raleigh, easy to Wilson. Yeah, it's just, I'm just, you know, I didn't know about the stoplight situation. Thanks.
Other questions?
Let's go back to the sidewalks in the cul-de-sac for 1 second. Obviously, if you put sidewalks into those 3 small cul-de-sacs, you're going to cut down on the size of the lot. Am I correct?
No, the sidewalks would be in the right-of-way.
Okay. Well, what you're telling me is there's right-of-way already there for the sidewalks. Am I correct?
That's correct. Sidewalks
And
would
I don't see
be
any
in the
reason why
right-of-way.
you wouldn't have sidewalks. If you've already got the easement and the right-of-way is already there.
The development standards for the town of Zebulon only require sidewalk on one side of the road.
That's all we put it on one side of the road, right?
On lots more than, it was a certain threshold. I believe it was over 11 lots, then you had to have sidewalks on one side of the street.
Maybe I'm still confused. That still sounds like to me we're cutting down on the lot size if we put sidewalks on these cul-de-sacs. Am I losing something here?
Yeah, no, if it's in the right-of-way, the lot dimension starts at the edge of the right-of-way.
I fully understand that.
So I don't see that. I didn't mean to stir up a hornet's nest here. It just seems strange to me the way that you would come to the middle of a cul-de-sac, right in the middle of the loop and stop.
Well, it would stop right on the, it'd stop before you get to the cul-de-sac, so at the throat of the cul-de-sac, so it would be right in this location, right. We wouldn't put it halfway around the bulb. It'd be right here at the throat.
Just come up to the ball and stop?
Correct.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I didn't understand that. I was all this for nothing. Okay, well, but for clarification, the way it's proposed, it's only on one side.
Well, the planning board recommended sidewalks on both sides of the streets.
I'm talking about in the cul-de-sac. I thought you said it was only on one side.
Either.
Let me check with the planning director. What do we say? Okay. So on these cul-de-sacs, we're not proposing sidewalks at all. That's not the requirement.
Well, all this talk meant for naught.
The sidewalks on both sides of the street are on these main
I don't argue with the
streets.
streets, it's fine. In fact, I'm not trying to argue on cul-de-sacs, but if you're not proposing any sidewalk in the cul-de-sac itself, not the street it connects to, but inside the cul-de-sac, then
Right, so
Wasting
I apologize if there's confusion. There's no sidewalk requirement within these shorter length cul-de-sacs.
okay, that makes sense to me. Either that or have it all the way, but not halfway. Okay,
Right.
sorry. Well, we'll get on the same page here in a minute. All right, thank you. Other questions? Is there, what do you want to do with it?
I make a motion we approve SUP 2019-06.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and
Can
seconded.
we tie it to how it meets all the findings of fact?
That's not necessary in a special use permit. The consistency statement isn't necessary, but it needs to be, as Mead said, findings of fact, but we also need to adopt the conditions as well as part of the motion.
Okay, so help her with the motion. The motion needs to be as
approve.
listed here, but also including conditions recommended by the planning board.
That's right.
Okay.
So it's got to be approval of SUP 2019-05 with the staff recommended conditions, finding that the applicant has provided evidence and testimony showing that the findings of fact as listed in section 152-083B have been met. That's it?
We're good.
Got it.
Okay.
Does the second that?
Second.
All right. Other comments or questions?
Is that, it says with staff recommended conditions, is it also the planning board's recommendation too in this statement? Does that cover their recommendation?
Yes, the planning board thought that it met the findings of fact. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Anything else? All in favor? And the motion carries. Thank you. All right, SUP 2019-07, Weaver's Ridge.
All right, this was another quasi-judicial case heard at the joint public hearing on August 12th. This is Weaver's Ridge. The applicant seeking approval for a special use permit, 182-lot major subdivision. Parcels outlined in yellow, located along Zebulon Road. You have the Weaver's Pond subdivision to the adjacent north and to the adjacent east. You have the elementary school to the adjacent south. The planning board, they recommended approval on the proposed conditions. They thought it met all the findings of fact, including the outstanding items that staff had. Those outstanding items were exterior elevations, a greenway connection throughout the development, so some ADA standards for model home construction, sidewalks, the Zebulon Road improvements, and then the timing of the street connection to the existing Weaver's Pond track to the north. And their vote was unanimous. And these were the findings of fact. And these are sample motions when you're ready to decide whether to approve or deny the special use permit. And that concludes my presentation.
Let's talk a bit about the road improvements. 'Cause that is being required on property or adjacent to property that won't develop because it is not within our jurisdiction, and it is in the watershed. So there's a lot of restrictions on that. They could never develop it to subdivision standards, and it's that. Can you use your?
Yeah, it's this area right here.
What's actually being required along that stretch of road right there?
Well, at the joint public hearing, the applicant proposed a different standard to meet what our 3-lane section for Zebulon Road was. Staff wanted to see the 3-lane along this portion, the town piece, and the watershed piece. That was before the public hearing. That was what staff's recommendation was. The applicant proposed a different alternative, which was constructing the entire 3-lane section of Zebulon Road just along the town portion's frontage. So instead of getting half of the 3-lane along this area, we're getting the full 3-lane along whatever's being developed for the site within town limits.
So that's what the recommendation is.
That was the recommendation, and staff agreed with that.
Okay. Now, was there not a sidewalk proposed along that section as well, or not?
There will be a sidewalk along Zebulon Road, yes.
Well, even outside of our jurisdiction?
No,
So just on that one 3-lane section in there?
that's correct.
Okay, all right. That's what I was just concerned about us getting outside of our jurisdiction and making requirements on property that we would never have any control over developing. And it felt to me personally to be cumbersome. So thank you. That clears that up for me. So, other questions?
What about the speed limit? Is it going to be slow in that area? I'd hate to see a sidewalk on Zebulon Road right there. I think it's too dangerous to have a sidewalk side the road.
I'm not sure what the speed limit is on Zebulon Road.
Right at that section right there. Is it 55? Huh?
45.
45.
Yeah, we can request speed limit changes from NCDOT, and we have done that before, so.
Is that road going to connect to Weaver's Pond Road? Can you go on that subdivision and go to Weaver's Pond? That's what I'm saying.
You will be.
I don't remember talking about this. I'm sorry, but
you will be able to when it's complete. Yes.
Will that kind of be a major thoroughfare then?
The street through the development we're calling it a residential collector. But it'll tie into Zebulon Road, and then it'll run through the development, and it'll tie into an existing stub street that's already been approved from a construction drawing standpoint.
But it's not
in Weaver's Pond.
right there, right?
I believe it's not currently built, correct?
I just wondered if there's going to be a time, there'll be a stop, we need to have a stoplight right there. I'm sure it will be a time.
Any other questions? All right, what's your pleasure?
I'll make a motion that we approve SUP 2019-06 with staff recommendations and recommended conditions as amended at the joint public hearing, finding that the applicant has provided evidence and testimony showing that the findings of fact as listed in section 152.083B have been met.
One correction is 2019-07. I know it says that up there.
Yeah, okay, let's go with 2019-07. I stand corrected.
Right. The screen's still showing.
I see, it's
06.
106. I knew I wasn't crazy.
Okay. Is there a second?
Excuse me, second.
All right, motion and a second. Other comments or discussion? All in favor? No opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. SUP 2019-04, Zebulon Green.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. The next case before you tonight is the conclusion of a special use permit for Zebulon Green. The property in question is at 451 Pony Road. This is actually a reapproval from a 2017 approval. As indicated at the joint public hearing, the applicant has agreed to all the original conditions that were part of the 2017 approval. The approval, once again, is for a 72-unit multifamily dwelling complex at 451 Pony Road. Originally, it was 2 parcels. Over the past 2 years, the applicant has combined into 1 parcel. While he was seeking funding, now that the funding's been secured, he is requesting approval again. As with any quasi-judicial special use permit, the findings of fact, as noted in section 152.083 subsection B, would be applicable. As indicated at the quasi-judicial joint public hearing, staff does find that with the proposed conditions, finding number 4 can be met. The planning board did take this up for consideration at the regular meeting and unanimously recommended approval with the original 2017 conditions as submitted by the applicant. And therefore, staff can also recommend approval. Before you is the 2 sample motions, one for the approval with the 2017 conditions as submitted by the applicant, and one to deny in the event that you find that all 4 standards are not met. I'm available if you have any questions.
Okay. Questions? All right. What you want to do?
Who wants to read this one? I can't.
Excuse
I'll
me,
make a
I need
motion
to ask a question. Is this SUP 2019-09 or 2019-04?
4.
04. Because it says 09 on the board. So it's got to be 04.
Staff report says 09.
It's got to be the opposite.
We're reading one thing and saying
Yeah, I
another.
see.
So it's so
One says 09, one says 04.
I apologize, this should be 04, as noted on the staff report.
I make a motion that we approve SUP 2019-09 with the proposed conditions.
So forth.
It's 04.
04, excuse me, I'm reading.
Go
Okay,
ahead, I know.
sorry. With the proposed conditions finding that the applicant has provided evidence and testimony showing that the findings of fact as listed in section 152-083B have been met.
I'll second 04.
Motion made and second. Other questions or comments? All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, ordinance 2020-26. Text amendment.
Okay. This is the completion of a text amendment process to hopefully simplify the development process, create additional transparency, and become more in line with what other communities have been doing. Specifically, it modifies the special use permit, creates a conditional zoning option as well as a plan development option for development. For example, the two major residential subdivisions before you tonight, as proposed, would have been able to go through a conditional zoning process versus the special use process. Staff specifically is recommending approval of the following sections of the Code of Ordinance, Section 152.038 through Section 154.043, which would eliminate the existing SUP regulations, or adoption of a new Section 152.038, which would encapsulate the entirety of the special use permit regulations, modification of 152.045 to remove special use permits from expiration of permits section, modification of section 152.053 to allow for major residential subdivisions to seek conditional zoning or plan development approval without having to go through the special use permit process, inclusion of 152.123 to create that conditional zoning process, and inclusion of section 152.124 to create a plan development process. Finally, the 152.138 would be eliminated to prevent conflict moving forward. As noted, the special use permit would be modified so that residential subdivisions would not necessarily need to go through this process if they go through either a plan development or a conditional rezoning approval. It would clarify and streamline the process, not only for the staff and for the board, but also for the development community. It would not require the planning board approval for special use permits. It would, however, remain quasi-judicial, and these would primarily be things that of sensitive land use issues, such as GREC, as an example, when it came before you a couple months ago. That'd be a classic example of what would still be required as a quasi-judicial permit. It does provide clarification regarding expiration dates and expands the findings of facts from 4 to 6. This language is also as currently drafted in the draft UDO. The conditional zoning allows for flexibility. Essentially, it picks up a lot of the components that we utilize right now with special use permits, but allows for them to be done in a legislative means versus a quasi-judicial means. It allows for a lot more open dialogue between the board, the staff, as well as the applicant, and allows greater transparency and public participation. Instead of having to be an expert witness or provide expert testimony, anybody can speak in favor or opposed to a particular request. The plan development does a similar, but it expands the scope. This is primarily used for mixed use options, and one of the greatest examples that is in close proximity is Wendell Falls. Currently, our structure, it'd be difficult to be able to approve something of this nature without having to approve it in small pieces. This allows for a holistic approach where the developer could come in and show this is the entirety of what we want to do kind of as a package option. The process for residential subdivisions, currently it would go through an application process, a joint public hearing, which would be a quasi-judicial hearing. The planning board, or sorry, a rezoning, which would be a legislative hearing. The planning board would then make a recommendation. The Board of Commissioners would then take action on the rezoning component, and then they would have to come back for the quasi-judicial special use permit joint public hearing. Once again, the planning board would have to make a recommendation on that, and then the Board of Commissioners could finally take action. With the proposed request, the application would be submitted, and then there would be a conditional rezoning joint public hearing. That would be a legislative hearing as opposed to the quasi-judicial hearing. The planning board would still make a recommendation, and then to complete it, the Board of Commissioners would then take action. Overall, this is how our current process looks. I apologize for the small boxes, but it is a fairly long process. The two important components are these right here. One is a rezoning, and the other is a special use permit. We would essentially eliminate the special use permit out of this and combine the best components of both of those into a conditional rezoning. This allows for that list of conditions to still be applicable, but in a legislative format and with one process versus two. It allows for the single joint public hearing as opposed to two joint public hearings. Being that's legislative, a lot more participation from the general public can take part of during the hearing. It also allows for those alternative means and compliance. If an applicant is requesting reduced side yard setbacks, as an example, they can provide additional landscaping features or other amenities that would allow for the intent of that regulation to still be met without having to meet the specifics of that regulation. It also allows for the town to regulate design standards, specifically for single-family detached residential structures. The state does not allow for municipalities to regulate those at the site plan stage, but does allow for them to be regulated at the rezoning stage. In terms of public participation, which is one of the most important aspects of this, is under the existing or under the proposed process, the applicant, the developer, the attorney, as well as the neighbors and general public would all be able to come and make recommendations regarding their concerns or ideas or suggestions, whereas under the quasi-judicial format, the first three, the developer, the applicant, and the attorneys, they could speak. However, unless the neighbors and the general public are classified as expert witnesses, they would not be able to provide testimony during that process. So essentially, the details that would be approved with these processes right now are broken into two separate processes where density, uses, how it relates to the comp plan, and the future land use map are regulated during the rezoning component, and then the design, the impacts, the traffic, and deviations from the regulations would be regulated or currently regulated as special use permits. The majority of the public have a lot of concerns, opinions, ideas, as well as support for the items that are commonly found in the SUP process, but they don't have a voice during the joint public hearing. Whereas with the proposed modifications, everybody would be able to participate in the joint public hearings, and it would be one meeting versus two. It does comply with our 2030 strategic plan in all of the aspects of vibrant downtown, being that this could be applied in downtown with the plan development components. It does allow for us to preserve the small town life with some of those design characteristics, and it is a smart growing tool. It's a tool that a lot of the surrounding municipalities currently have. The planning board did take this up for recommendation and voted unanimously, and they included the following consistency statement: that the proposed amendments to section 152.038 through 152.043, 152.045, 152.053, 152.123, 152.124, and finally 152.38 are consistent with the Vision 2030 plan. In the new and revised ordinance language will help create a vibrant downtown, promote small town life, and create development options to allow the town to grow smart. And with that, I am available if you have any questions.
The only one I really have, and I just really want to be sure I understand it, the expiration of if we issue special use permits. Mm-hmm. Now, heretofore, they had a life of 1 year, I believe. It could be extended, but yeah. What is it now?
During the Zebulon Green application, we were reviewing to determine exactly when the expiration date would take place. And with the assistance of the town's attorney, we discovered that there's a clause in the state statute that would allow for those special use permits to have a 2-year vested period, whereas our ordinance stated it was 1 year. The removal of that 2-year requirement, or the referencing in the expiration permits, actually brings us in line with state statute, and it references that it's a 2-year expiration period in the revised language under section 154.04 or 038.
Well, that's the way I understood it, but then when you put this, your very first one up, it just says, I forget the wordage, but it implied that it would never expire.
No, it will still put in an expiration date. It just takes it out of the one-year category and puts it into.
Yeah, and that's fine. I have no problem with that. Just want to be clear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay. What you want?
I make a motion we approve ordinance 2020-26.
Second.
Motion made and second. Other comments or discussion? All in favor? And the motion carries. Thank you. All right, next we have planning board appointment. We had one candidate came and spoke to us at our work session, Jessica Luther, I think, and the other candidate did not. But in any event, we have two candidates and one appointment. So what's your pleasure?
I make a motion that we appoint Jessica Luther to the planning board.
Second.
Motion made and second. Other comments or discussion? All in favor? And the motion carries. Thank you. Public Works, ordinance 2020-27.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the board. Tonight come before you and ask and request for some funding for Little River Dam for the archaeological and architectural surveys. In working through our process with FEMA in regarding the Little River Dam, the regional office for FEMA in Atlanta and the SHPO office here, State Historical Preservation's office, asked us to complete a architectural survey which will help identify the historical structures for the project area that we're looking to work in. And they also asked us to complete an archaeological study to look at and investigate for significant cultural sites that may be in the area that we're looking to do the renovation or restoration at. The cost for this project is estimated at $35,500. These professional fees are reimbursable by FEMA, and we have selected two proposals. One of them wasn't available at the time of this report. The second one did come in from ACOM, and it's about $810 difference. So the two proposals are very competitive. If you approve this ordinance tonight, staff will go back and evaluate the qualifications and make recommendations to the manager on the most qualified firm. And I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
I have a couple, Chris.
Yes, sir.
The $35,000, I understand, is for the two different studies, but FEMA has requested we do it, but they have not yet said whether they're going to fund us or not.
They have given us verbal comment that it is consistent with for reimbursement for FEMA. Our local rep and our state emergency office representative have both told us these are reimbursable.
I understand that, but my point is, are they saying either way they're going to reimburse us?
Yes, sir. That's my understanding.
Let's be sure.
We can follow back up with them, but
I'd like to see it in writing.
they are working on the revised PW, which is a Public Works worksheet that encompasses our whole project, and these proposal information was sent to them, so it's supposed to be incorporated in that new PW, but at this time we have not got that PW.
Well, that was my concern, is that, you know, we're getting the cart before the horse here, because that we didn't have a commitment from FEMA for anything down there, period. Rebuild the dam, do the park, whatever. Yeah. In fact, we've had a couple of denials from them, and then we've gone back and appealed, and currently have an appeal in process right now. But I didn't want us to go out and spend this money, and then they say, well, thanks, but we're not going to.
We have email confirmation from Mr. Jim Jacko, our local representative FEMA. This project is reimbursable under FEMA.
Okay. Now, where did SHPO get in?
SHPO, as we were working through the process and having our project evaluated, the regional office in Atlanta asked us to coordinate with SHPO. So thus we forwarded our proposal to SHPO, and we got back from them the request to complete the archaeological and architectural survey, which was consistent with the FEMA's recommendation.
And what's their motivation to do with that? I mean, is it going to be, they want to establish it as a historic site or what? I mean, where do they want to go with it?
They basically wanted just to find out if there is potentially a historical site there, if there's any cultural impacts that this project might have on it. They want to fully understand the history of the project, any cultural significance that might be there from anything that we find in the study. And so when they make a recommendation, they're in support of this project or not, they will have a full understanding of the impacts.
Okay, so the money for their study is also reimbursable by FEMA?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Other questions?
I'll make a,
Send them a bill tomorrow if we approve it.
Sir? I didn't catch
All right,
that.
go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2020-27, Little River Archaeological and Architectural Survey.
Second.
Motion made and second. Other comments or discussion? All in favor? Chris, what I said was send them a bill tomorrow.
Send them the bill tomorrow. It's reimbursable, sir. We have to complete the study
That's all
stuff.
we're gonna do. I mean, we front the money and they're gonna pay us back,
That is correct, sir.
even if they don't fund anything else.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, we're good. Okay, streetscape match grant request, Zebulon Downtown Arts Council.
Yes, sir. We come before you tonight on behalf of the Zebulon Downtown Arts Council, requesting a streetscape match for a mural that'll be placed on Whitley Galleries. The actual mural process started today with some outline work being done by the artist. The project is expected to take 8 to 10 days. The Zebulon Downtown Arts Council is requesting $1,000 toward that project. The project is eligible for consideration because it is tax exempt, and the project meets creating a resilient downtown by creating a temporary gathering space. And to date, from a financial standpoint, you budgeted this year $10,000. To date, we've spent approximately $250 on the downtown sign, leaving $9,750 available for appropriation. As I said, ZDAC is asking for $1,000, and staff's recommendation that this request is consistent with the streetscape match policy as currently written. Be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? The only question I have probably, Chris, is maybe for the Art Council to answer, and I don't want this to seem derogatory, but what is the significance or the message of the hands?
I can't answer that, sir. We'll have to
I
ask
just
a
wondered if there
representative
was
to.
some motivation behind it, if it stood for something, or, I mean, because, you know, there are different signals with hands, but no, I'm just curious, and if you're going to speak, you have to come up here.
Dallas Pierce, Chairman of ZDAC. Good evening, Mayor, members of the town board. Well, I'm not the artist, obviously, but my understanding, we have met consistently with the artists many times, and the theme is that the hands are the old hands, if you'll notice in the picture, the old hands are giving to the young hands, and that is giving the tradition of Zebulon, turning it over to younger people primarily.
Okay.
That's the theme.
I just couldn't figure what the message was.
Yeah. The old given to the new.
About time.
Any questions? I'd be glad to try to answer anything I can.
Curtis, you have one?
No, Dallas, that's
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I
Explanation.
just with curiosity.
Yeah.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, folks. Other questions or comments?
We may need a plaque at the base of this to explain that comment that Dallas just made to the general public. I'm not sure. Thank you anyway.
All right, what's the pleasure?
I'll make a motion, we approve the street match grant to the Zebulon Arts Council.
Okay,
Second.
motion made, second. Other comments or discussion? All in favor? Motion carries.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Chris. All right, board comments. Dale, I'll start with you tonight.
I don't have anything.
Anything, Don?
I don't have anything either.
Oh,
Okay. Joe, manager's report?
I would be remiss if I didn't mention that Friday's movie is Wonder Park. And then I also want to recognize Chief Hayworth for a few minutes. He wants to make an introduction to y'all.
our guest here tonight. I want to introduce to you our newest police officer. This is Joseph Morris, known as Joby by those that know him. And he's from Bunn area, went to Bunn High School, currently lives in the Pilot area, where he's also a member of the Pilot Volunteer Fire Department. So he could have stood up there with Chris as well. We can help you guys put out fires again, so we'll be there with that. He enjoys playing golf and duck hunting on his free time. He doesn't have a lot of that right now because he is in his 14-week field training program with the police department. We do 14 weeks with our veteran police officers and our supervisors as they kind of learn the ropes out on the street. So we're glad to have Joby with us, and another hometown folk, you know, being from Pilot and Bunn, he's from this area, so we're proud to add him to our police department.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that it, Doug?
Yes, sir.
Oh, you have, okay. Okay, we have a closed session as permitted by North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A5 for the purpose of property acquisition, and NCGS 143-318.11A for the purpose of discussing personnel. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Second.
Second, all in favor? Okay.
Take a break.